She was pregnant with twins when her billionaire husband left her at the hospital for his mistress, until she returned owning his empire. I stood in his corner office on the 62nd floor, watching him realize what I had just done. The color drained from Marcus's face as he stared at the documents I had slid across his mahogany desk. "What is this?" His voice cracked. "Diana, what the hell is this?" I kept my voice steady, cold even. "That is your signature, Marcus, transferring 81% of Montgomery Global Wellness to me, along with all intellectual property rights, real estate holdings, and offshore accounts. Effective immediately. You can't do this. This is my company. I built this. Have you ever been abandoned by someone who promised to protect you? Have you ever discovered that the person you loved saw you as a tool, not a treasure? This is the story of how my billionaire husband left me hemorrhaging and fighting for our baby's lives, while he was with his mistress, and how I made him pay by taking everything he built on my stolen work. If you are just coming across our channel, please don't skip this video. Every second counts. What's coming next will blow your mind. Stay till the end for the twist you don't want to miss, and do well to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. I leaned forward, my hands flat on the desk where I had signed so many papers over the years without reading them. "You built it on my stolen research. You built it on Dr. Ashford's stolen protocols. You built it using my name, my credentials, and my reputation while I was home alone, hemorrhaging and fighting to keep our daughter alive. Remember that night, Marcus? 29 weeks pregnant, bleeding through our sheets, calling you over and over while you were in bed with Sienna?" His jaw clenched. "That is not fair." "Fair?" I laughed, and it was a sound I barely recognized. "You want to talk about fair? Let me tell you what fair looks like. Fair is the FBI investigating your fraudulent patent filings. Fair is the IRS auditing every offshore account you thought you hid so well. Fair is every news outlet in America knowing you abandoned your black wife at the hospital while she nearly died giving birth to your premature daughter. Fair is you losing everything, just like you made me feel like I was nothing. Diana, please, we can work this out. Don't do this." I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. Then I stopped and looked back at him one final time. "You told me to handle it myself, Marcus. Remember? When I called you at midnight, terrified and alone, with our newborn daughter whose oxygen levels kept dropping. You told me not to be needy. You told me to handle it myself." I paused, letting those words hang in the air between us. So that is exactly what I did. I handled it. And now Montgomery Global Wellness no longer exists. Welcome to Ashford Scientific Wellness. Your name is already being scraped off 623 doors across North America. By tomorrow morning, you will just be another failed executive who thought he could steal from brilliant people and get away with it. But let me back up and tell you how we got here. Because this story does not start in that office. It starts 4 years ago when my life looked absolutely perfect from the outside. My name is Diana, and this is the story of how my husband's cruelest abandonment became his most catastrophic mistake. But here is what will shock you most. The weapon I used to destroy him, he handed it to me himself without even realizing it. Hit that like button if you are ready to see how one hospital gown and a phone call that never came exposed a decade of lies. Because what I found in his office files will make your blood boil. 4 years ago, I was living what everyone thought was the dream. Penthouse in Manhattan with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. A waterfront estate in the Hamptons where we hosted charity galas that raised millions. And Marcus Montgomery, my husband, who owned Montgomery Global Wellness. Those luxury spas and wellness retreats where celebrities and executives paid $15,000 per week for what Marcus called holistic transformation. Marcus was not just wealthy. He was that particular type of rich that comes with real power. Senators called him for advice on healthcare policy. Forbes put him on their annual power issue 3 years running. Business Insider did a feature called The Wellness Revolution, and Marcus was the cover story. And me? I was the stunning black wife on his arm at every event. Dr. Diana Ashford Montgomery, former biochemist, former cancer researcher at Columbia University, the woman who had walked away from potentially groundbreaking work to support the family vision. That is how Marcus always described it. The family vision, our shared dream, building something bigger than both of us. But have you ever felt like you were living someone else's dream? Have you ever looked around at your beautiful life and felt like you were slowly disappearing inside it? Comment below if you have ever felt like you were playing a role in someone else's fantasy, because that is exactly what I was doing. I just did not realize it yet. Marcus had convinced me to leave my research 3 years into our marriage. We were at our Hamptons house, sitting on the deck watching the sunset, and he took my hand with this serious expression. Diana, I need to talk to you about something important. Your work at Columbia, the cancer research. Know how much it means to you. I remember feeling my chest tighten. Where was this going? But I have to be honest. It is killing you. You work 80-hour weeks. You come home exhausted. You are stressed all the time. And for what? So you can spend another decade in a lab hoping for a breakthrough that might never come? Marcus, this research could save lives. We are so close to understanding how certain compounds can trigger apoptosis in treatment-resistant cells. He squeezed my hand gently. And that is beautiful. It really is. But baby, look at what we are building. Together, Montgomery Global Wellness is expanding into 8 new markets this year. We are changing lives right now, not theoretically. We are helping thousands of people transform their health. And I need you, not just as my wife, but as my partner. Your scientific credibility, your expertise, it gives everything. We do legitimacy. I hesitated. I do not know, Marcus. My research is at a critical phase. What if you consulted for Montgomery Global instead? He was warming to the idea now, his voice getting that excited edge it always had when he was selling something. You could develop our wellness protocols. Make sure everything we do is scientifically sound. You would still be doing important work, but without the stress. And we could actually have a life together. Maybe start a family. The family part got me. We had been talking about kids for a year. Think about it. He kissed my forehead. No pressure. But I really believe we could change the world. Together. Real, measurable impact. Not just hypothesis and clinical trials. I thought about it for 2 weeks. And then I resigned from Columbia. I told myself it was my choice. Told myself I was choosing a different kind of impact. I told myself that Marcus was right, that I would still be doing meaningful work. Looking back now, I can see exactly what happened. Marcus needed credibility for his wellness empire. He needed a real scientist, preferably one who looked good in photos and could speak intelligently about cellular biology and metabolic processes. He needed Dr. Diana Ashford, the promising young black researcher from Columbia, to make Montgomery Global Wellness look legitimate, diverse, and scientifically rigorous. He did not need a wife. He needed a credential, a prop, a beautiful black face to put on his marketing materials while he built his empire on pseudoscience and stolen research. But I did not understand that yet. For the first 2 years, I actually believed we were building something. Together, I developed protocols for the wellness centers. I reviewed supplement formulations. I gave presentations at investor meetings about the science behind our approach. Marcus introduced me at every event. This is my wife, Dr. Diana Montgomery, who brings real scientific rigor to everything we do. She is the brilliant mind behind our cellular optimization protocols. People were impressed. Investors wrote bigger checks. The business grew from 150 wellness centers when we got married to over 400 by our 5th anniversary. Marcus credited me constantly in interviews. I could not do this without Diana. She is the scientific foundation of everything Montgomery Global represents. I felt valued, important, like I had made the right choice. What I did not realize was that while Marcus was praising me in public, he was also putting my name on hundreds of documents I never actually read. Partnership agreements, patent applications, licensing, deals, property acquisitions. Every time he slid something in front of me at breakfast or while I was getting ready for an event, it was always the same explanation. Just some corporate formality, darling. Standard liability protection. Boring legal stuff. Or investment paperwork for our future. Setting up the kids' trust funds for when we start our family. Or partnership documents so we are protected as a couple. You trust me, don't you? And I did trust him. So I signed, and signed, and signed. I had no idea I was signing away ownership of my own research. I had no idea Marcus was filing patents on protocols I had developed, listing himself as the primary inventor. I had no idea my name was being used to insulate him from legal liability while he built his empire on foundations that were not quite as legitimate as they appeared. But all of that came later. First came the cracks. I got pregnant when I was 36. After 3 years of fertility treatments, countless disappointments, and more shots and procedures than I want to remember, I finally saw those 2 pink lines. I was so happy I actually cried in the bathroom for 20 minutes before I could pull myself together enough to tell Marcus. He was in his home office on a conference call when I knocked softly and peeked in. He glanced up with a slight frown. Kind of in the middle of something important here, Diana. I know. I am sorry. But I really need to tell you something. He muted his call. What is it? I am pregnant. For a second, his face lit up with genuine joy. Really? That is amazing, baby. He stood up and hugged me. And for that moment, everything felt perfect. But then his phone buzzed with a message and I felt him already pulling away, back to whatever deal he was negotiating. The joy lasted about a week. Then the complications started. At my 8-week appointment, Dr. Patel used words that made my stomach drop. Placenta previa. High risk pregnancy. Modified bed rest. Possible complications. Marcus was supposed to be at that appointment but had canceled last minute for a meeting with investors from Tokyo. When I told him the news that night, he was distracted, scrolling through emails on his phone while I talked. So Dr. Patel said I need to really take it easy. No stress, no heavy lifting, and I have to come in for monitoring every 2 weeks. He was not really listening. Marcus, did you hear what I said? This is a high-risk pregnancy. He looked up then, finally focusing on me. I heard you. High risk. You need to take it easy. That is fine. We have people who can help. I will have my assistant arrange for whatever you need. I need you. I need you to be present for this. Diana, of course I am going to be present. He set down his phone, giving me what I now recognize as his concerned husband performance. But you also have to understand that I have 600 wellness centers depending on me. I have 3,000 employees. I have investors who have put hundreds of millions of dollars into this company. I cannot just stop everything because you need to rest more. I am not asking you to stop everything. I am asking you to come to my doctor appointments, to be there when I need you, and I will be. He kissed my forehead, the same dismissive gesture he always used when he wanted to end a conversation. Promise. Now I really need to finish this proposal for the Singapore expansion. Are you okay? I was not okay, but I said I was, because that is what I always did. Over the next few months, the pattern became clear. Every ultrasound appointment, Marcus had a conflict. The London investors were flying in. The Dubai deal needed his personal attention. The wellness retreat in Sedona required his presence. Can you just reschedule the appointment? He asked more than once. I mean, how critical is it really? The baby is fine, right? The appointments are to make sure the baby stays fine, Marcus. That is the whole point of high risk monitoring. He would sigh like I was being difficult. Okay. Let me see what I can move around. But he never moved anything around. I went to every single appointment alone. 22 weeks. 24 weeks. 26 weeks. Every time Dr. Patel asked where my husband was. Every time I Made excuses. He is traveling for business. Big international expansion. You know how it is. Dr. Patel would give me this look that I pretended not to understand. The look that said she knew exactly what was happening, that she had seen this before. The successful husband who was too important for his pregnant wife. At 28 weeks, Dr. Patel delivered news that terrified me. The placenta previa had not resolved. If anything, it was worse. There was a real risk of hemorrhage. I needed to be on strict bed rest. Immediately. And Diana, I need you to understand something. If you start bleeding, you need to get to a hospital. Immediately. This is not something to wait out. Placental abruption can be life-threatening for both you. And the baby I called Marcus from the parking lot. He picked up on the fourth ring. Kind of in a meeting right now. Can this wait? No, it cannot wait. I just saw Dr. Patel. The placenta previa is worse. I am on strict bed rest and there is a risk of serious hemorrhage. Marcus, this is serious. I heard him step away from wherever he was. His voice lowered. Okay, that sounds scary. What do you need from me? I need you to come home. I need you to understand that this is not just an inconvenience. I do understand. And I will be home tonight. Promise. But right now I am literally in the middle of the Wakefield Group presentation. These are the London investors I have been trying to land for 8 months. Cannot just walk out. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Your wife is telling you she might hemorrhage and you are worried about investors? There was a pause. Then his voice got that edge to it. The edge that meant I was being unreasonable. Diana, do not do this. Do not make me choose between you and the business that provides everything. You are smart enough to understand that this meeting impacts our entire future. Our baby's future. I will be home tonight and we will figure everything out. But right now I need you to trust me. And let me finish this presentation. He hung up before I could respond. I drove home alone. Went on bed rest alone. Spent the next week alone in our penthouse watching the city below, feeling my baby move inside me, and wondering when exactly my marriage had become this cold, distant thing. But I still did not realize how bad it was going to get, because I still believed that when it really mattered, when there was a genuine emergency, Marcus would be there. I was so devastatingly wrong. It happened at 29 weeks. I woke up at 1:47 in the morning to wetness. First I thought maybe my water had broken, but when I turned on the light and saw the blood, I knew this was something much worse. Our white Egyptian cotton sheets looked like a crime scene. Blood everywhere. More blood than I knew could come from a human body. And the pain. Sharp, tearing pain that made me gasp. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands. Called Marcus first. It went straight to voicemail after 2 rings. Marcus, I need you. I am bleeding. A lot. Please call me back. I called 911 next. Told them I was 29 weeks pregnant and hemorrhaging. The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional, asking me questions I could barely focus on answering. Is there anyone there with you, ma'am? No. My husband is not home. I tried calling him, but he is not answering. Okay, stay on the line with me. An ambulance is on the way. They will be there in approximately 8 minutes. I tried Marcus again while I waited. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. The paramedics arrived in 8 minutes exactly, just like the dispatcher promised. 2 of them, a man and a woman, both young and moving with efficient urgency. How far along are you? 29 weeks. Any medical conditions we should know about? Placenta previa. My doctor warned me this could happen. They got me on a stretcher, started in 4, wrapped a blood pressure cuff around my arm. All of it felt surreal, like I was watching it happen to someone else. In the ambulance, I tried Marcus one more time. My fingers were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Still voicemail. The female paramedic squeezed my hand. We are going to take good care of you. You are doing great. Is there anyone else we can call for you? I gave her my sister's number. But all I could think about was Marcus. Where was he? Why was not he answering? What could possibly be more important than this? At Mount Sinai, everything became a blur of bright lights and urgent voices. Dr. Patel was there. Somehow, even though it was 2 in the morning. Her face was serious as she examined me. Diana, we need to do an emergency cesarean. The placenta has completely abrupt. The baby is in distress and you are losing too much blood. Do you understand? I nodded. Tried to speak but nothing came out. I need you to sign consent for surgery. Is your husband on his way? I do not know. He is not answering his phone. Her expression flickered. Something that might have been anger or maybe just deep sadness. Okay, we cannot wait. We need to go now. They rushed me toward the operating room. I remember the ceiling tiles passing overhead, one after another. I remember someone putting a mask over my face. I remember trying Marcus one more time, and hearing his voicemail message. Hi, you have reached Marcus Montgomery. I am unable to take your call right now, but if you leave a message I will get back to you as soon as possible. Then everything went dark. When I woke up, there were machines beeping everywhere. My body felt heavy, disconnected. A nurse, with kind eyes, was standing next to my bed. Welcome back, Diana. The surgery went well. You have a daughter. She is very small, only 2 pounds and 11 ounces, but she is a fighter. She is in the NICU and doing as well as can be expected. Can I see her? Soon. Let me get the doctor. And your husband is here. He arrived about 20 minutes ago. Marcus was here. Finally. Relief flooded through me despite everything. He was here now. That was what mattered. But it would be another 3 hours before he actually came to see me. 3 hours of me lying in that recovery room, my body aching from surgery, desperate to see my daughter, wondering where my husband was now that he had finally shown up. When Marcus finally walked in, he had flowers. An enormous, expensive arrangement of orchids. His face was drawn, tired. Diana, thank God you are okay. I came as soon as I heard. I stared at him. As soon as you heard? Marcus, I called you 17 times. I left messages. I texted you. I was hemorrhaging and you did not answer your phone for hours. He set the flowers down and came to the bed. I know. I am so sorry. The Singapore expansion hit major complications. I had to fly out there to meet with the Tan family investors personally. My phone was off during the flight and then I was in back-to-back meetings, and by the time I turned it back on and saw your messages. He trailed off, realizing how it sounded. You were in Singapore? While I was having emergency surgery. While your daughter was being born. His jaw tightened. Do not make it sound like I chose to be away. This deal is worth $200 million. Do you understand what that means for our family? For our daughter's future? She almost died, Marcus. I almost died. But you did not. He said it like that made everything okay. You are both okay. The doctors said the baby is small but stable. You are going to recover. Everything is going to be fine. I turned my face away from him because I could not look at him anymore. Have you even seen her yet? Our daughter? Not yet. I wanted to check on you first. It was a lie. I could see it in his eyes. He had been here for over 3 hours and had not gone to see either of us. He had been doing something else. Handling business calls probably. Damage control on. Whatever deal was so important he could not answer his phone while his wife was dying. What is her name? He asked. We had not decided on a name. We were going to choose together once she was born. Zoe, I said. Her name is Zoe. That is beautiful. He tried to take my hand, but I pulled away. I need to rest. You should go meet your daughter. He stood there for another moment, clearly uncomfortable. Then nodded. Okay, I will go see her now. And Diana? I really am sorry. You know I would have been here if I could have. But that was the thing. He could have been here. He chose not to answer his phone. He chose the Singapore deal over his wife and child. He chose his empire over his family. I just did not realize yet that his choices were about to cost him everything. The nurse wheeled me to the NICU 4 hours after I woke up. Nothing prepares you for seeing your baby like that, Zoe was so tiny, so impossibly small, lying in an incubator with tubes and wires. Everywhere. A ventilator breathed for her. Monitors tracked every heartbeat. She is doing really well, the NICU nurse told me. Her name tag said Patricia. For 29 weeks, she is incredibly strong. Her lungs need support, but that is expected. We are monitoring her closely, but all her signs are stable. Can I touch her? Absolutely. You can reach through the incubator ports. I slipped my hands through the openings and gently, so gently, touched my daughter's tiny foot. Her skin was translucent, delicate. She was smaller than some of the dolls I had as a child. But she was alive. She was fighting. "Hi, Zoe," I whispered. "I am your mama. I am right here. I am not going anywhere." And I meant it. Whatever happened with Marcus, whatever our marriage had become, I was going to be there for my daughter. Every single day. Every single moment she needed me. Marcus visited the NICU that first day for exactly 45 minutes. He took a few photos, his face carefully arranged in an expression of fatherly concern. Then he said he needed to get back to the office to handle some urgent matters. "She is going to be here for a while," he said. "Probably weeks, right? So I should take care of business now, while she is stable. That way I can be more available when she comes home." It was such obvious bullshit that I did not even respond. Over the next week, Marcus came to the hospital exactly 3 times. Each visit lasted less than an hour. He would stand next to Zoe's incubator, check his phone, ask the nurses a few questions, and then find a reason he needed to leave. Meanwhile, I was there every moment I was physically able. As soon as I was released from my own recovery, I moved into the NICU family room. I pumped milk every 3 hours so Zoe could have breast milk through her feeding tube. I sat next to her incubator and read to her, played soft music, did kangaroo care where they would take her out and lay her on my bare chest for precious minutes of skin-to-skin contact. And I was alone, completely alone. My sister came when she could, but she lived 4 hours away and had her own family. A few friends visited, but my husband, Zoe's father, was absent in every way that mattered. On Zoe's 8th day of life, I was in the pumping room at 2 in the morning. That was my routine now. Pump, store the milk, go sit with Zoe, try to sleep for a few hours. Repeat. The pumping room was small and depressing, with motivational posters about the benefits of breast milk that somehow made the whole thing feel even more isolating. I was exhausted. My body still hurt from the surgery. My breasts were sore from constant pumping. Was running on maybe 3 hours of sleep in the past 2 days. And I was trying so hard not to fall apart because Zoe needed me to be strong. Then I heard Marcus's voice in the hallway. 2 in the morning. What was he doing here at 2 in the morning? But it was not concern that brought him. It was laughter I heard. Real laughter. The kind of genuine, happy laughter I had not heard from him in months. Maybe years. "No, everything is fine. The baby is stable. Diana has got it under control. You know how she is. Total warrior." I stood up slowly, quietly, moved toward the door of the pumping room. Should be free by the weekend, actually. We can still make that Napa trip we talked about. The house in St. Helena is just sitting there waiting for us. I peeked through the small window in the door. Marcus was there, with a woman, Sienna Chun, his director of brand experience. Gorgeous, perfect. Sienna with her designer clothes and her perfect skin, and her hand on my husband's arm. They were standing close, too close. The way he was looking at her, the way he was smiling. And suddenly, so many things made sense. The late meetings, the weekend strategy sessions, the international trips where Sienna always seemed to be part of the team. Singapore. Had Sienna been in Singapore with him while I was bleeding out? While our daughter was being born, fighting for her life? I watched them for another moment. Watched Marcus lean in and whisper something that made Sienna laugh. Watched him kiss her cheek. Quick, casual, like they had done it 1,000 times. They were 20 feet from the NICU where our daughter was on a ventilator. 20 feet from where I had been killing myself trying to keep everything together. and Marcus was planning weekend getaways with his mistress. I stepped back from the door before they could see me, sat back down in the pumping room chair, stared at the bottles collecting milk for my daughter, and something inside me broke. But it was not the kind of breaking that destroys you. It was the kind of breaking that burns away everything soft and leaves only something hard and sharp behind. I did not confront him that night. I just watched them walk away together, Marcus's hand on the small of Sienna's back. I pumped my milk. I stored it carefully. I went back to Zoe's bedside and held her tiny hand through the incubator ports, and I started planning. Zoe spent 6 weeks in the NICU. 6 weeks of watching my tiny daughter fight for every breath. 6 weeks of monitors and alarms and doctors with serious faces. 6 weeks of pumping milk and doing kangaroo care and reading stories to a baby so small she fit in the palm of my hand. Marcus visited 7 times total. 7 times in 6 weeks. I counted. Each visit followed the same pattern. He would arrive, usually with some elaborate coffee. Order for the nurses to make himself look thoughtful. He would stand next to Zoe's incubator for 10 or 15 minutes, taking photos that I know he never looked at again. Then he would check his phone, frown at some urgent email, and explain why he needed to leave. The Tokyo team needs a decision on the property acquisition. I have to take this call. Or the board meeting got moved up. I really need to be there for this. Or the Wakefield group is having second thoughts about the London expansion. I need to handle this. Personally. Always something more important. Always somewhere else he needed to be. Meanwhile, I was learning things I never wanted to know. How to read a pulse oximetry. Monitor. What bradycardia means in preemie babies. How to hold my daughter while she was still connected to tubes and wires. How to be strong when every alarm made my heart stop. The NICU nurses were incredible. They became my support system. Patricia, especially. She worked the night shift and she would sit with me during the long, dark hours when I could not sleep. Your husband travels a lot for work? She asked one night. Was not really a question. Yeah. Big expansion happening right now. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something I will never forget. You know what I have learned? Working here for 12 years? The dads who show up in the beginning are the ones who stay. The ones who find excuses now will keep finding excuses. I did not say anything. What could I say? She was right. It was week 4 when I finally saw them together again. Marcus and Sienna. I was walking back from the cafeteria with terrible coffee and a sandwich I would not eat when I saw them in the hallway near the main elevators. Away from the NICU. Away from anywhere they might be seen by someone who mattered. They were not touching, but they did not need to be. The way they stood together, the way Sienna looked up at him, the way Marcus smiled. That smile he used to give me. I ducked into a stairwell before they could see me, and I just stood there, holding my terrible coffee, shaking. But I still did not say anything. I was not ready yet. I needed more time, more information, more certainty about what I was going to do, because by then, I had already started digging. Late at night, while Zoe slept in her incubator and the NICU was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors, I would pull out my laptop and start searching. Marcus's public filings for Montgomery Global Wellness, patent applications, partnership agreements, anything I could find online. And I was starting to see my name in places that did not make sense. Why? Was I listed as co-inventor on a patent for a cellular detoxification protocol that I had never heard of? Why was my name on a trademark application for a supplement line I knew nothing about? I made notes, saved screenshots, started building a file, and then Zoe came home. Good Morning America wanted to cover it. Local news too. Successful wellness. Mogul's miracle baby comes home after 6 weeks in NICU. Marcus, of course, said yes. Immediately. So our daughter's homecoming became a media event. Camera crews in our living room. Marcus holding Zoe with this practiced, tender expression while a reporter asked him about the experience. It has been the most challenging and rewarding time of our lives, Marcus said, his voice perfectly pitched to convey emotion without seeming weak. Watching Zoe fight so hard, seeing my incredible wife be so strong through all of this, it really puts everything in perspective. Family is what matters. Everything else is just noise. I stood off to the side watching him perform, watching him hold our daughter like she was a prop in his redemption story. The cameras loved it. Handsome billionaire, beautiful black wife, miracle baby, perfect narrative. The second the crews left, Marcus handed Zoe back to me. I need to get to the office. The Singapore deal is finally closing and I need to be on the call. You have got this, right? He was gone before I could answer. Zoe and I were alone in that massive penthouse with all its expensive furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows and complete emptiness. That first night home was terrifying. Zoe had been discharged with oxygen support and a monitor that tracked her breathing and heart rate. The NICU nurses had trained me on everything. How to use the equipment, what to watch for, when to call the doctor. But knowing what to do and actually doing it alone at home are very different things. The monitor kept alarming. Not serious alarms, just the kind of minor fluctuations that are normal for preemies but still make your heart stop every time. Zoe's temperature kept dropping because preemies cannot regulate their body temperature well. I was supposed to keep her warm but not too warm. Fed but not overfed. Stimulated but not overstimulated. By midnight, I was exhausted and terrified and completely overwhelmed. Zoe's temperature had dropped to 96.2. The safe range was 97 to 99. I had tried everything. Extra blankets, skin-to-skin contact, adjusting the room temperature. Nothing was working, and I was alone. So I called Marcus. It was 12:17 in the morning. He picked up on the fifth ring. What is wrong? His voice was alert but not concerned. Alert like I had interrupted something. Zoe's temperature keeps dropping. I have tried everything the nurses showed me but I cannot get it to come up. And her oxygen saturation keeps dipping. Not dangerously low but lower than it should be. Marcus, I need help. Can you please come home? I heard music in the background. Smooth jazz. Glasses clinking. Laughter. Diana, I am in the middle of something critical right now. Can this wait until morning? Did you try calling the pediatricians? Answering service? They can walk you through it. I tried them. They said to monitor her, and if it gets worse to bring her to the ER. But Marcus, I should not have to do this alone. She is your daughter. I am asking you to come home and help me. There was a pause. Then, his voice changed. Got that edge to it. Look, I married you because you were brilliant and independent. You were a research scientist, for God's sake. You spent years studying cellular biology. You can figure out how to keep a baby warm. My hands were shaking. This is different. I am scared. I have never done this before and I need support. He cut me off. Do not start being one of those needy wives now, Diana. I have been incredibly patient with this whole situation. The pregnancy complications. The extended NICU stay. I have been supportive. But I also have a business to run. A business that pays for the penthouse you are standing in and the private pediatrician you have on call and everything else. Marcus, handle it yourself. He said it with such finality, such dismissal. Handle it yourself, Diana. You are smart enough. You do not need me there to hold your hand through every little thing. And then the line went dead. I stood there in our nursery, my newborn daughter, struggling to maintain her body temperature, the monitor beeping softly, and I felt something inside me turn to ice. Handle it myself. Fine. That is exactly what I would do. Bundled Zoe against my chest in the special carrier the NICU had given us. Skin to skin. Contact, my body heat warming hers. Within 20 minutes, her temperature started to rise. Within an hour, it was stable. I had handled it. And while I held my daughter close, feeling her tiny body warm against mine, I made a decision. I was going to handle everything, but not the way Marcus thought. The next morning, after Zoe was fed and sleeping peacefully in her bassinet, I went into Marcus's home office. He was at work, of course, closing his precious Singapore deal. I started with the filing cabinets, then the desk, drawers, then the locked drawer that I opened with a letter opener because Marcus had never thought to make the lock actually secure. What I found in those files made my hands shake for a completely different reason than fear. Montgomery Global Wellness was not just a wellness empire. It was a maze, holding companies and offshore accounts, international partnerships and licensing agreements, franchise deals and property acquisitions, layer upon layer of corporate structure. And my name was everywhere, not just on a few documents, everywhere. Partnership agreements listing me as co-founder, business licenses with my name as co-applicant, patent applications showing me as co-inventor, tax documents listing me as primary stakeholder in properties I had never heard of. I found contracts I definitely did not remember signing, operating agreements for limited liability companies I did not know existed, registration paperwork for trademarks in my name. But the most shocking part was the patents. Dozens of them, all filed in the past 7 years, all for wellness protocols and treatment methodologies. And every single one of them was based on my original research from Columbia. My actual research, the cancer research I had walked away from, the cellular apoptosis triggers, the metabolic optimization pathways, the compound interactions I had spent years studying. Marcus had taken all of it, repackaged it as wellness protocols, filed patents with his name as primary inventor and mine as co-inventor, made millions selling treatments based on my work. While I sat at home thinking I had given up science, I pulled out one patent application after another, read through the technical specifications. It was my work, my research, my years of study, just reworded slightly and applied to wellness instead of cancer treatment. The anger I felt was cold and clear and absolutely focused. I kept digging, found a folder, marked Ashford Acquisition Confidential. Inside were documents about a company, acquisition from 8 years ago, before I had even met Marcus. Something called Ashford Wellness Protocols. The paperwork showed Montgomery Global acquiring all assets, intellectual property, and trademarks from Dr. Lawrence Ashford for $750,000 and an ongoing consulting agreement. But there were other documents in that folder, legal correspondence, cease and desist letters from a lawyer representing Dr. Ashford, allegations of fraud, claims that Marcus had stolen the protocols and manipulated the acquisition through forged signatures and misrepresentation, and Marcus's lawyers' responses, threatening countersuits, harassment claims, expensive legal battles that an elderly man probably could not afford to fight. The last document in the folder was a handwritten note on Marcus's personal stationery. Ashford issue resolved. No further contact. Legal threats worked. Old man does not have resources to fight. Move forward with expansion plan. I sat back in Marcus's expensive leather chair and looked around his office, the awards on the walls, the magazine covers featuring his face, the photos of him with celebrities and politicians, all of it built on stolen work. Mine and this Dr. Ashford person I had never heard of. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Dr. Diana Montgomery? The voice was elderly, male, carrying barely restrained anger. Yes, this is Diana. My name is Dr. Lawrence Ashford. I know you do not know me, but your husband stole my life's work and built his empire on it. And based on what I have been reading about you in the news, the miracle, baby story and all that, I think it is time you knew the truth about the man you married. Gripped the phone tighter. Dr. Ashford, I just found a file with your name on it. Then you Know some of it. But not all of it. Not what he really did. And I think we should meet. Because I have evidence that could destroy Marcus Montgomery. And I think you might be the person who deserves to use it. 2 hours later, I was sitting in Dr. Lawrence Ashford's modest brownstone in Brooklyn. The contrast to my penthouse could not have been more stark. Where my home was all modern glass and expensive minimalism, Dr. Ashford's house was warm and cluttered with books and research papers and photos of a life well lived. Dr. Ashford was 71 years old, thin from recent illness but sharp-eyed and clear-voiced. He served me Earl Grey tea in delicate china cups and then proceeded to dismantle everything I thought I knew about my husband. I developed every single protocol that Montgomery Global Wellness uses, he said, pulling out notebooks filled with handwritten research, the detoxification programs, the cellular regeneration treatments, the hormonal balancing systems, all of it, every single protocol. I spent 30 years developing this work. He showed me research papers dating back decades, development, timelines, clinical observations, email exchanges with early investors. Marcus was just the money. Dr. Ashford continued. I needed capital to expand, to build treatment centers, to get the protocols to people who needed them. Marcus approached me at a conference in 2008, said he believed in the work, said he wanted to partner with me to build something meaningful. What happened? For the first 2 years it was a real partnership. I developed the protocols. He handled the business side. We opened 60 treatment centers. It was working. But then I got sick. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3. Dr. Ashford's hands trembled slightly as he poured more tea. I needed to focus on treatment. Marcus said he would handle operations temporarily. Said I should not worry about the business, just focus on beating cancer. I trusted him. He visited me during chemo, brought flowers, asked about my treatment, seemed genuinely concerned. But he was not concerned. Dr. Ashford pulled out another folder, thicker than the one I had found. While I was going through chemo, barely able to get out of bed, Marcus was systematically transferring my ownership stake to himself. He used shell companies, manipulated contract dates, forged my signature on documents I never saw. By the time I finished treatment and was strong enough to look at the business again, I owned nothing. He had taken everything. How is that possible? How could he legally do that? It was not legal. That is the point. But Marcus knew I did not have the resources to fight him. Cancer treatment bankrupted me. Spent everything I had just staying alive. And Marcus used expensive lawyers to threaten me. Said if I pursued legal action, he would countersue for breach of contract and destroy what little I had left. Dr. Ashford's eyes were bright with unshed tears and rage. I spent 4 years watching that man profit from my work while I could barely afford my follow-up treatments. 4 years watching him on magazine covers being celebrated as a wellness visionary. 4 years knowing the truth and being powerless to do anything about it. Why? Are you telling me this now? 'Cause I read about what happened to you. The premature birth. Your husband missing it because he was in Singapore. And I know what he was really doing in Singapore. He was opening new treatment centers using my protocols. Getting richer off work he stole while his wife was fighting for her life and his child's life. Dr. Ashford leaned forward. But that is not even the worst part. The worst part is how he used you. I have been watching for years. Every investor presentation, every marketing campaign, always highlighting Dr. Diana Montgomery, the brilliant black scientist who brings credibility to our work. Do you not see? You were never his partner. You were his shield. Your name, your credentials, your face. All of it was just camouflage to make his stolen empire look legitimate and diverse. The words hit me like a physical blow because I knew they were true. I had always known something was off. I just had not wanted to see it. I have evidence, Dr. Ashford said. recordings of conversations with Marcus, documents proving the theft, proof that could send him to federal prison for fraud and racketeering. Why have not you used it? Because I am an old man with stage 3 cancer and he is a billionaire with unlimited legal resources. But you are brilliant. You have legal standing. Your name is on half his documents. And based on what I have read about you, you are not someone who stays down when you have been knocked over. He pushed a box across the table toward me. Take this. Use it. Destroy him the way he deserves. And maybe we can both get justice. I opened the box. Inside were hundreds of documents. But on top was a small recording device. What is this? Conversations I recorded once I got suspicious. Marcus admitting to manipulating the acquisition. Discussing how to hide profits from me. Planning to, quote, clean up loose ends after the old man dies. In one recording, he is literally laughing about how easy it was to steal from a dying man. I picked up the recorder. With shaking hands. There is one more thing you should know. Dr. Ashford said quietly. Saw the photos of you and Marcus at charity events. The way he always positioned you. The beautiful black scientist wife who proved he was not just another rich white guy profiting from pseudoscience. Do you know how many times Montgomery Global has won diversity and inclusion awards? How many grants and tax incentives they have gotten for being minority-owned because your name is on the paperwork? I did not know what to say. You were not his wife, Diana. You were his diversity optic, his legitimacy shield, his get-out-of-criticism card. And he used you for that while treating you as completely disposable in every way that actually mattered. I drove home with Dr. Ashford's box of evidence on my passenger seat and a clarity I had not felt in years. Everything made sense now. Every document Marcus had slid in front of me. Every time he had introduced me as his brilliant scientist wife. Every marketing photo that prominently featured my face and credentials. Had not been paranoid. I had not been oversensitive. I had been exploited. Systematically. Deliberately. On every possible level. Marcus had stolen my research. Used my name. Exploited my race for credibility and grants and awards, and then abandoned me when I actually needed him because I had served my purpose. But he had made mistakes. Critical mistakes. He had underestimated my intelligence. He had put my name on documents without explaining what they actually meant. He had used my research and credentials without my informed consent, and he had assumed his abandoned black wife would quietly accept whatever settlement he eventually offered. He was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. I hired Gabrielle Thornton the next day. Thornton and Associates was legendary. High-stakes divorces, corporate fraud, intellectual property theft. If you were a wealthy, powerful man who had done something very wrong, Gabrielle Thornton was the lawyer you feared most. She was in her 50s, impeccably dressed, with eyes that missed nothing. I met her in her corner office overlooking Madison Avenue and laid out everything. The abandonment during my medical emergency, the affair with Sienna, the stolen research, the patents filed in my name, and Dr. Ashford's evidence. Gabrielle looked through the documents for 20 minutes without saying a word. Then she looked up at me with a smile that was absolutely predatory. Can you play the happy wife for 8 weeks? She asked. What? I need time to build the case properly, to get forensic accountants on the financial records, to have IP attorneys review every patent, to coordinate with Dr. Ashford's interests, and I need Marcus to think everything is fine. Can you do that? Can you go home and pretend for 8 weeks while we build a case that will destroy him? I thought about Zoe. About the NICU, about Marcus's voice saying handle it yourself. I can handle anything. Over the next 8 weeks I gave the performance of my life. I was the perfect wife. Supportive, understanding, grateful. When Marcus came home late, I did not ask questions. When he traveled for business, I wished him luck. When he mentioned Sienna was essential to the Singapore expansion, I smiled and said how glad I was he had such a competent team. Meanwhile, Gabriel's team was taking apart Marcus's empire piece by piece. The forensic accountants found offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and Singapore, millions in hidden revenues, money that should have been reported, should have been taxed, and definitely should have been disclosed in any potential divorce proceedings. The IP attorneys discovered that almost every major patent Montgomery Global held was based either on my research or Dr. Ashford's protocols. And in many cases, Marcus had committed fraud by listing himself as primary inventor when he had contributed nothing to the actual development. The investigators found a pattern of manipulation going back years, franchise owners being cheated on profit sharing, investors being shown falsified revenue reports, employees having their ideas stolen and repackaged as Marcus's innovations. But the beautiful irony was this: Marcus had used my name so extensively on so many documents in so many contexts that I had legitimate legal claims to the intellectual property that formed the foundation of his entire business. What he had done to exploit me was about to become the weapon that destroyed him. This is extraordinary, Gabrielle told me during one of our strategy sessions. You do not just have grounds for a massive divorce settlement. You have grounds to claim ownership of the intellectual property that makes Montgomery Global Wellness possible. Without your research and Dr. Ashford's protocols, the company is just expensive real estate and fancy reception desks. Dr. Ashford's recordings were the nuclear option. Hours of Marcus admitting to fraud, discussing how to hide money from investors, planning to bury Dr. Ashford in legal fees if he ever complained. In one recording that made my blood boil, Marcus was on the phone with his lawyer. The old man is not going to be a problem. He is 71 with stage 3 cancer. Even if he wanted to fight, he cannot afford it. And honestly, nature is going to handle the situation for us probably within the next few years. Anyway, he was literally waiting for Dr. Ashford to die so the problem would go away. We have enough for federal charges, Gabrielle said. Securities fraud, tax evasion, RICO violations. The FBI and SEC would be very interested in this evidence. But Diana, I need to know what you actually want. Prison? Or something else? I thought about Zoe, about building a life for her, about what kind of example I wanted to set. I want Montgomery, Global Wellness, all of it. The company, the patents, the real estate, the offshore accounts. Everything he built using my research and Dr. Ashford's stolen work. I want it all. Gabrielle smiled. Then let us take it from him. Marcus filed for divorce on a Tuesday afternoon in September. I was expecting it. Gabrielle had predicted he would move first, try to control the narrative. The settlement offer arrived by courier. I read it while Zoe napped. Bausel. Support for 7 years at $50,000 per month. The Hamptons house. Primary custody of Zoe with Marcus getting reasonable visitation rights. And a lump sum payment of $15 million. It sounded generous until you did the math. Marcus's actual net worth was close to $800 million. He was offering me less than 2%. The audacity was almost impressive. This man had abandoned me during a medical crisis, conducted an affair while his premature daughter fought for her life, stolen my research to build his empire, used my name and credentials and race as diversity decoration. And he was offering me pocket change. I called Gabrielle. He filed. Perfect. Are you ready, Diana? I have been ready for 2 months. Then let us destroy him. Monday morning, Gabrielle filed our response. It was not just a response. It was a legal nuclear weapon designed to obliterate Marcus Montgomery's entire world. We filed a comprehensive lawsuit claiming fraud, intellectual property theft, identity exploitation, breach of fiduciary duty, and racketeering. Under the RICO statute, We requested emergency injunctions freezing all Montgomery Global Wellness assets pending investigation. We filed criminal complaints with the FBI, SEC, and Patent and Trademark Office. We also filed a separate civil suit on behalf of Dr. Ashford for intellectual property theft, fraud, and elder abuse. But the real nuclear option was our press strategy. By Tuesday afternoon, the New York Times had a front-page story. Wellness empire built on stolen research and exploited black wife, lawsuit claims. By Wednesday, the story was everywhere. CNN, MSNBC, every business network, social media, exploded. The hashtag Diana Deserves Better was trending nationally. And the racial element made it impossible for Marcus to control the narrative. Think pieces appeared about how white entrepreneurs exploit black partners for credibility. Former employees started coming forward with their own stories about Marcus's toxic behavior and discriminatory practices. Franchise owners talked about being cheated. Investors started asking hard questions. Marcus's perfect image was crumbling in real time. Thursday morning, my phone rang. Marcus. I let it ring 3 times before answering. What the hell do you think you are doing? He was screaming. Actually screaming. You are destroying everything we built. I kept my voice clinical, detached. Marcus, you built your empire on stolen research. Mine and Dr. Ashford's. You used my name and credentials as diversity decoration while treating me as disposable. That is not building together. That is exploitation. Those patents are legally filed. Those documents are out of context. You do not understand corporate structure. I understand intellectual property theft. I also understand that Dr. Ashford has recordings of you admitting to stealing his protocols. Have documentation of you filing patents on my research without my informed consent. Would you like me to play them in federal court? Silence. Long enough that I checked to see if he had hung up. What do you want? His voice was hollow now, defeated. I want Montgomery Global Wellness. The company, the real estate, the patents, the licensing, agreements, the offshore accounts. Everything you built using my research, my name, and Dr. Ashford's stolen work. That is insane. I will fight this for decades. You are welcome to try. But Marcus, the FBI is very interested in your securities filings from the past 10 years. The Patent Office is investigating your fraudulent patent applications. And the court of public opinion has already decided what you are. You can fight me in civil court while defending yourself in criminal court if you think that is a winning strategy. I need time to think. You have 48 hours. After that, Dr. Ashford and I go completely public with everything, including the recordings. And Marcus, we will make sure every outlet knows. You were with your mistress while your black wife hemorrhaged alone and your daughter fought for her life in the NICU. How do you think that plays in the current climate? I hung up before he could respond. If you are loving Diana's comeback, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in her situation. This community is incredible and I read every single comment. Marcus's attorneys called Gabrielle at 11:23 that night, 37 minutes before our deadline. They wanted to negotiate. The negotiation lasted 9 hours. I was not there for most of it. Gabrielle handled it with her team while I stayed home with Zoe. But she called me at 8 in the morning with an update. He is going to sign everything you asked for. 81% ownership of Montgomery Global Wellness. All intellectual property returned to you and Dr. Ashford with full compensation. Primary custody of Zoe. He keeps his personal assets and enough money to live comfortably. But the empire is yours. I closed my eyes, felt tears. I had been holding back for months finally fall. It is over. It is over. You won. Within 2 weeks, I was the majority owner of 623 wellness centers across North America. The first thing I did was rename the company. Not Diana Global Wellness. That would have been just as ego-driven as Marcus. I called it Ashford Scientific Wellness, honoring the man who had actually created the protocols, the man Marcus had stolen from and tried to destroy. The second thing I did was bring in actual scientists to review every protocol. No more expensive pseudoscience. No more treatments based on marketing instead of evidence. If we were going to sell something, it had to actually work. The third thing I did was establish real diversity in leadership. Not performative representation. Not token hires. Actual equity. People of color in executive positions with real power and real compensation. Dr. Ashford became Chief Scientific Officer. At 75, still in remission. From his cancer, he was finally getting the recognition his work deserved. Marcus tried to start a competing wellness brand 8 months later. He used his remaining money and his name recognition. He positioned himself as the victim of a vindictive ex-wife. It failed spectacularly. Within a year, he had burned through most of his remaining capital. Sienna left him shortly after, once the money and prestige disappeared. Last I heard, Marcus was consulting for a mid-tier supplement company in Arizona, making maybe $200,000 a year, a fraction of what he used to earn. Zoe is 3 years old now, healthy and thriving. She has no memory of those terrifying NICU nights, no memory of the monitors and tubes and fear. She will grow up knowing that her mother turned abandonment into advocacy. That betrayal became power. That being underestimated became the beginning of something extraordinary. Ashford Scientific Wellness is thriving. We have opened 89 new locations in the past 2 years, every single one with evidence-based protocols and ethical business practices. Our diversity metrics are the highest in the industry, and they are real, not decorative. Our revenue has increased by 54% because we are actually delivering value. Dr. Ashford and I co-published a paper last month in the Journal of Integrative Medicine. It is already being cited as groundbreaking. My research from Columbia, the work I thought I had abandoned, is finally being used the way I always intended, to actually help people. I reclaimed my maiden name. I am Dr. Diana Ashford now, not Montgomery. I took back the identity I had lost somewhere in that penthouse with those floor-to-ceiling windows. I am not a billionaire's decorative wife anymore. I am a scientist, a CEO, a mother, a woman who knows her value and will never let anyone exploit her again. People ask me sometimes if I am angry about what Marcus did, if I hate him, and the truth is I do not. I am grateful. His betrayal forced me to reclaim who I actually was. His abandonment led me back to my science, my power, my purpose. His exploitation taught me to never again let someone else define my worth. He thought he was discarding a convenient wife who had served her purpose. Instead, he awakened a scientist who systematically dismantled everything he had stolen. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been used by someone who saw you as a tool rather than a person? Have you ever been underestimated so completely that it became their downfall? Because Marcus Montgomery thought he was abandoning a convenient black wife, a woman he could exploit for credibility while treating as disposable in every way that mattered. Instead, he awakened someone who understood exactly how to take apart complex systems, who knew how to find weaknesses and exploit them, who had the intelligence, the resources, and the absolute determination to take everything he had built on lies. If the story resonates with you, if you have ever felt used or discarded by someone who should have valued you, I want you to remember something. They did not break you. They freed you. Every betrayal is an opportunity to discover power you had forgotten you possessed. Every abandonment is a chance to reclaim who you actually are beneath all the expectations and performances. I spent years being who Marcus wanted me to be, the supportive wife, the credentialed decoration, the diversity shield. And when he discarded me, when he told me to handle it myself, I discovered something. I was so much more powerful than either of us had realized. Drop a comment and tell me, what is the most shocking thing you have ever discovered about someone you trusted? What made you finally see who they really were? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you want to see more stories about people who got the justice they deserved, make sure you are subscribed to Cedar Light Love Stories. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because I have got incredible stories coming up. Stories about people who were counted out, written off, underestimated, and who proved everyone wrong. Because this channel is about more than entertainment. It is about learning that we are stronger than we think, that justice is possible, that betrayal can be the beginning of something extraordinary, not the end. I look at Zoe sometimes, playing in the office that used to be Marcus's. Dr. Ashford's photo is on the wall now, along with our published research. Awards for actual scientific innovation, not marketing excellence. Photos of our team, diverse and brilliant and real. This is what I am building for her. Not an empire built on lies. Not wealth built on exploitation. But something true. Something that actually helps people. Something she can be proud of. Remember, the best revenge is not getting mad. It is getting everything. And becoming everything you were always meant to be.